Welcome to Unit 3, Activity 3. What we are working on in this particular activity is that we are going through and looking at influences on identity as well as culture. And these are all parts within a society that we need to pay attention to as social scientists to understand all the various behaviors and the factors that are influencing them. So right here we have some ideas of introducing technology as culture, as well as looking at some sports history as culture. And we're looking at the representations within mass media. So reading through all this information is really important. Within this activity, there are two discussions that will help you formulate some ideas in terms of what is mass media and its impact on the culture and also groups in society. So there's a question here in which you're being asked to think about being Canadian. And I know for some of you, this might be a challenge for sure. And you can talk to other people about what they think of when it comes to representation of Canadian culture within media. And so you can either participate in this discussion thinking of a song that represents Canadians or something that is truly Canadian within the music, whether the artist is Canadian or the content of the song, or identifying a Canadian actor-singer that through their performances being Canadian is somewhat a part of their musical identity. And so you can participate in that discussion right there. So moving on through values, norms, we have some terms and definitions in terms of understanding the different components of culture. And while you're thinking culture is supposed to be anthropology, anthropology and sociology actually work really well together for the purpose that we are looking at culture, but we're also looking at the groups within those culture and then how they adhere to the cultural norms and values that are instilled. So we're reading through all the content about social change, group behavior, and what we're moving into is the concept of what a social movement is. So within this content, we're going to learn about social movements, and in a next course, which is HSP3C or 4U, it actually talks about social movements a little bit more in depth, as it's a course that focuses on changes in society. And one of those things that instills that change or helps move that change forward is a group of people who come together to make awareness about a particular issue. So there's lots to learn here about social movements and how actually social movements have been using technology in which to influence and change the world around them. So here's a little video on looking at technology and its impact on society and culture. And there's another discussion that you can participate here. And again, this is all building up information so that when we participate in the big assessment here at the end, that we have at least gathered some of the information. So here's where I wanted to take a moment to just explain this particular assignment. So we're going to be looking at the idea of social change and the impact that technology has had in order to move forward concepts or recognition of a particular issue within social movements. So within this, what we're being asked to do is you are either going to create social media posts or you're going to create an infographic. And I'm just going to, in this video, quickly show you some of those concepts as to what you can use. We've actually done social media posts in a previous unit and activity, but I'm going to talk a little bit about infographics as well. So what you're being asked to do is go into this link and you're going to choose a variety of, or you're going to choose one of the social movements and you're going to do some research on it to understand what it is. For example, I'm going to look through here, and these are social movements. Again, a social movement is a grouping of individuals trying to move forward or make change in a particular area. So I'm going to look for, oh, I haven't heard about this one in a while, Idle No More. So I'm going to look up this particular social movement in internet databases. When I looked up Idle No More, I found just a quick little synopsis right here. But when I look at references and sources that will be reliable, I have the Idle No More grassroots website right here, and I also have the Canadian Encyclopedia. I have a number of different sources. CBC, which is a news outlet. I probably wouldn't use this one, but I might use this one to gather information and then look for more reliable sources. So when I looked into it, I'm going to gather some information so that I can make a summary as to what this is all about, so that I can understand. And I remember when this came about in 2012, you all were very young at the time, so you probably don't know about this social movement. And it was to protest against legislation that had been passed that restricted rights and freedoms for Indigenous peoples in Canada. So looking through, I would make a synopsis, I would gather some information. So what do I do with that information? So I'm learning about that, and then what I need to do is create a product. So it's either going to be 3 social media posts, or it's going to be an infographic poster. So I'm going to show you really quickly these 2 graphical ways in which to display your information. The first one I'm going to remind you about is Zeub. And so I used this when we were looking at the work of different social scientists and posting in social media form. And so it's basically a template for Facebook. So what I like about it is that not only can you include all the information that as you're typing it in and putting in pictures, you can actually also do comments. And this assignment is specifically asking you to do comments. So if you are going to do 3 social media posts about, I'm using Idle No More, I'm going to make 3 social media posts about that. I'm going to include information and photos from them, as well as comments that connect to, and using some of those resources in order to include in my information. Okay, so Zeub is a great resource. If you would like to do social media, you have to do 3 different posts. So when you complete it and you've entered in everything, you'll have to save it and then start again in order to create 3 different posts with the comments that you're going to include. And the comments are usually included right down here. And there's some criteria in the assignment outline for that. So what is an infographic? You may have made infographics in other courses, or maybe you've never even heard of it. So an infographic is a visual way to represent information. And as an English teacher, I've actually done this within my English courses. What it is are blocks, and you are visually representing an introduction to a topic. You're presenting statistics in a graphical way, and you're telling a story. So if I was to click on this one in particular, from the very beginning, I can understand what it's about. This one's about infographics specifically. And then I can read some statistics as I go through. And I often, unless you're guided with arrows, such as this one is, and you can change all of these within it, that typically you read it like a book. So I'm following these arrows so that I can figure out in what order I'm actually reading this. This one actually tells me step 1 to 5. So there's different ways in which you can, if I was reading this one in particular, it's a very long one, that each little block, so this would be a block right there. This is your introduction. We're giving some background information, some details, and then we're getting into the meat of this particular infographic. Okay, so an infographic is a way in which you present information in a graphical form. The goal is to represent it within pictures and somewhat clip art. And you can have minimal text, but that was the whole concept, is that we want to keep that text to a minimum. We want to have graphics that connect to it. So what should you use? I'm actually going to recommend 2 particular programs, and you can use them with a Google account. I'm going to recommend, first of all, Pictochart. And when you log in, you can just use your Google account. I've already logged in once, so that's why it's recognizing it. I didn't have to pick my Google account. And I've actually created some before. And so these are some of the infographics that I have worked on in the past. I'll be actually posting a video about how you can download those and then hand them in, which you'll need to attach them as a graphic into a Word document or a Google Doc in order to submit them. The other one I would highly recommend is Canva. And when you go into Canva, you can use your Google account. It actually has infographics. Both of these programs, both Pictochart as well as Canva, actually have templates that you can choose. And then when you open them up, you can simply edit those. So I'm only at 17%. I can actually expand that so that I can see it close in. And be able to edit that. And I find it pretty intuitive. You can actually find all your graphics here. You can search what you're looking for, different texts and fonts. You can actually upload pictures if you would like to. Can you tell I'm a hockey mom? And you can do a number of different things within this program. So I would highly recommend that you use the time and the week in order to play with all three of these programs, whether it's Zoob and you're making social media posts, whether it's Pictochart that you're making templates, and there's lots of templates there that you can just edit or start from scratch, or even Canva. So don't hesitate to play with the programs, watch videos on how to use those programs, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions.